What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks into what he expects to be a friendly interview, only to find himself under fire from a host determined to challenge him on live television? That's exactly what happened when Michael B. Jordan faced off with Joy Behar on The View, leaving audiences stunned and social media buzzing for days. Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe and drop a comment with your thoughts. You're not going to believe what went down. The studio lights blazed as Michael B. Jordan settled into the familiar semicircle of chairs on the View set. Fresh off promoting his latest directorial project, he appeared relaxed, expecting the usual promotional conversation. The other hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and Sonani Host, welcomed him warmly. But Joy Behar's expression already carried an edge that hinted at the storm to come. "Welcome back to The View," Whoopi announced. "We're here with the incredibly talented Michael B. Jordan, actor, director, and producer. Michael, thanks for being with us today. Thanks for having me. Always great to be here," Michael replied, flashing his signature charm and winning smile. The conversation began casually. Sarah Haynes asked about his latest film, and Michael spoke with genuine enthusiasm. "Stepping behind the camera has given me a new perspective on storytelling. I want to tell stories that matter, stories that represent voices that often go unheard in Hollywood." Sonani Host nodded approvingly. "That's something we really appreciate about your work. You consistently choose projects with social relevance." But then Joy leaned forward, and the energy in the room shifted. "Speaking of social relevance," she interjected, her tone sharp, "I have to ask about some of the choices you've made recently. There's been criticism about actors like you who seem to pick and choose when to be socially conscious." Michael's smile faltered slightly, but he kept his composure. "I'm not sure I follow what you mean, Joy. You talk about representation and giving voice to the voiceless." Joy pressed on, her voice growing stronger. "But then you work with directors and producers who have questionable records on diversity." The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. Whoopi shifted in her seat, and Sarah looked concerned. "That's a pretty unfair characterization," Michael said, voice steady but edged with steel. "I'm deliberate about the projects I choose and the people I work with. I can't control every decision in this industry, but I can control my own actions and the stories I choose to tell." Joy wasn't backing down. "But don't you think actors in your position have a responsibility to do more? Shouldn't you use your platform to call out problems in Hollywood rather than talking about representation? Only when it suits your image." Her words hung in the air like a charged cloud. Michael's jaw tightened, and for the first time, his polished media training seemed to crack. "Convenient for my image," he repeated slowly. "Joy, I don't think you understand the work I do behind the scenes, the private conversations I have to create real change in this industry." "Oh, but that's just it," Joy fired back, voice rising. "It's all behind the scenes and private. Meanwhile, other actors take real risks, put their careers on the line, and you're sitting pretty with blockbuster deals." Whoopi tried to intervene. "Joy, maybe." "No, Whoopi. This is important." Joy cut in. "The public deserves to know where their favorite stars really stand, not just the carefully crafted PR version." Michael leaned back, clearly processing the confrontation. The other hosts looked mortified, but Joy seemed energized by the tension. "Joy, I think you're operating from a fundamental misunderstanding of who I am and what I stand for," Michael said, his voice now carrying unmistakable edge. "Am I?" Joy challenged. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like another Hollywood actor who talks a good game about social justice when the cameras are rolling, but plays it safe when it really matters." The studio audience, quiet until now, began to murmur. Some hosts visibly recoiled at Joy's aggressive approach, while others seemed captivated by the unexpected drama unfolding before them. Michael drew a deep breath, and anyone who knew him could see he was nearing a breaking point. "You know what, Joy? I came here expecting to talk about my work, the stories I'm trying to tell, the positive impact I'm trying to make. Instead, you've ambushed me with accusations based on assumptions about my character and my commitment to causes I care about." "Ambush?" Joy laughed dismissively. "I'm asking the questions your fans want answers to. I'm holding you accountable. No, Michael said firmly, his voice rising. You're grandstanding. You're creating conflict where none needs to exist because it makes for good television. And honestly, it's beneath what this show usually represents. The tension in the studio was palpable. Camera operators zoomed in, sensing something significant was brewing. The other hosts sat frozen, unsure how to navigate the escalating hostility. Joy's eyes flashed with satisfaction. She had clearly struck a nerve. Oh, so now I'm grandstanding? That's interesting, coming from someone whose career has been built on carefully managed public appearances and safe choices. Safe choices. Michael's voice dropped to a dangerously quiet, controlled tone, one that anyone familiar with him would recognize as a warning. Joy, you clearly haven't done your homework. Want to talk about taking risks? Let's talk about the millions I've invested in Black-owned businesses. Let's talk about the production company I started to create opportunities for underrepresented filmmakers. Let's talk about the mentorship programs I fund that you haven't even bothered to research. Joy waved him off. Anyone with money can write checks, Michael. I'm talking about using your voice when it matters, when there are real consequences. Michael's composure cracked further. Do you have any idea what it's like to navigate this industry? As a Black man trying to create change while maintaining the relationships necessary to actually get projects made. Do you understand the delicate balance required to push boundaries without burning bridges that could help others? That sounds like a convenient excuse to me. Joy shot back. Other actors speak truth to power without worrying about bridges. Sonani host finally spoke up. Joy, I think Michael raises valid points about the complexity of creating change in Hollywood. Oh, please, Sonny. Joy snapped. You're defending celebrity activism that amounts to nothing more than performance art. Michael gripped the arms of his chair. Performance art. The families helped by the housing initiatives I've funded. The young filmmakers getting their first breaks through my production deals. They might disagree with you, but Joy pressed on relentlessly. When the biggest controversies hit Hollywood, when systemic issues come to light, where's your voice? Where are the posts? The interviews calling out power brokers by name? You want names? Michael's voice surged. Fine. The executive who said I was too urban for a leading role. The producer who only saw me as a drug dealer, not a hero. The casting director who thought audiences wouldn't connect with me as a romantic lead. Do you understand? The studio fell silent. Even Joy seemed momentarily taken aback by the raw honesty. The difference between you and me, Joy, is that I know change happens through strategy, not shouting. I work within the system to create opportunities while building my platform. But apparently, that's not enough for you. It doesn't make good sound bites. Joy regrouped quickly. Exactly my point. You talk about strategy, but the system operates as it always has. How many Black directors have landed major studio deals? Because of your behind-the-scenes work. How many Black writers have had projects greenlit? Are you seriously asking me to quantify my advocacy on live TV? Michael shot back. Do you want me to list names and dollar amounts? Do you want me to violate the privacy of people I've helped, just to satisfy your demand for proof? I want you to admit that maybe working safely within the system isn't creating the revolutionary change that's needed. Joy fired back. Whoopi attempted to intervene. Maybe we should take a breath here? No. Whoopi, Michael cut her off, eyes locked on Joy. I think Joy wants to have this conversation, so let's have it. You want to talk about revolutionary change? Let's talk about how you, sitting in your privileged position on this show, think you have the right to lecture me on how I should use my platform. Let's talk about how you've decided your understanding of activism is the only valid approach. Joy's mouth opened, clearly taken aback. Excuse me. You heard me, Michael continued, his voice growing stronger. You're sitting there telling me my work isn't meaningful enough. My approach isn't radical enough. My impact isn't visible enough for your standards. But what gives you the authority to judge? What revolutionary changes have you spearheaded? What systemic barriers have you torn down? The other hosts sat frozen, torn between fascination and horror. This was television gold, but it was also deeply personal, and the discomfort in the room was palpable. Joy's face flushed. I've been calling out injustice on this show for years. I've never been afraid to speak truth to power, regardless of the consequences. Speaking truth to power from a comfortable TV studio isn't the same as risking your career and financial security to create actual change. Michael shot back. It's easy to be brave when your job is secure. It's easy to demand others take risks when you're insulated from the consequences. How dare you question my commitment to social justice? Joy's voice shook. How dare you question mine? You don't know me. Michael fired immediately. You don't know my story. You don't know the battles I've fought or the prices I've paid. You've spent the last 10 minutes making assumptions and accusations based on whatever narrative fits your agenda for today's show. The audience fell completely silent, riveted by what was clearly an unprecedented moment on The View. Joy leaned forward, hands trembling slightly. You know what, Michael? I think I struck a nerve because you know I'm right. You could be doing more, and instead of admitting it, you attack me? Attack you? Michael's voice exploded. Attack you? You invited me here to discuss my work, and then spent the entire segment trying to tear down everything I've accomplished. You've questioned my integrity, my commitment, my character, and now you want to play the victim because I'm finally defending myself. The studio crackled with tension. Cameras captured every micro-expression, every subtle gesture. I'm not playing the victim, Joy shot back. I'm doing my job as a journalist, asking the tough questions. Journalist. Michael let out a humorless laugh. Is that what you call this? Because what I'm seeing looks more like character assassination disguised as journalism. You came into this conversation with your mind already made up, and no amount of evidence will change it. Sarah Haynes tentatively spoke up. Maybe we should all take a step back. No, Michael interrupted, intensity unwavering. Joy wanted this conversation, so we're finishing it. You want to know what real activism looks like? It looks like the young black filmmaker who just landed her first studio deal because I used my influence behind the scenes. It looks like the community center in Newark that exists because I didn't announce my donation on social media for clout. It looks like the scholarship program, putting kids through film school right now. Joy's voice faltered, losing some of its earlier conviction. But you still work within a system that perpetuates inequality. Of course I work within the system, Michael said, his voice controlled but laced with barely contained fury. That's where the power is. That's where the decisions are made. That's where the money changes hands. You can shout from the outside, but if you want to create real change, you have to be in the room where it happens. Joy scoffed. That's the same excuse every complicit person in power has used throughout history. The word complicit hung in the air like a slap. Michael went completely still, his eyes piercing. Complicit. He repeated slowly, his voice dangerously quiet. You just called me complicit in perpetuating the very system that's tried to limit and define me since the day I walked into my first audition. You just accused me of being complicit in my own oppression and the oppression of my community. Joy seemed to realize she might have crossed a line, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. If the shoe fits, Michael, she said. The shoe fits. That was the moment Michael B. Jordan truly erupted. The shoe fits. Joy, let me tell you something about shoes. I've walked in shoes you couldn't even imagine. I've been the only black face in rooms where I had to prove I belonged. I've sat through meetings where executives talked about urban audiences like we were some exotic species to study. I've been in situations where my talent, professionalism, and humanity were constantly questioned. His voice rose with each word. I've walked the walk while you've been sitting comfortably behind this desk, talking the talk, and now you have the audacity to suggest I'm complicit in the very system I've spent my entire career fighting to change. Joy tried to interject, but Michael didn't pause. You want to know what complicity looks like, Joy? Complicity looks like sitting in a position of privilege and influence and using it to tear down the people actually doing the work. Complicity looks like creating division where there should be solidarity. Complicity looks like demanding black men perform activism in ways that make you comfortable instead of recognizing that there are multiple paths to real change. Whoopi frantically tried to signal the producers, but Michael wasn't finished. You've spent this entire interview trying to diminish everything I've accomplished, everything I stand for, everything I've sacrificed. And for what? Ratings. Controversy. To make yourself feel important by tearing down someone who's actually making a difference. Joy's composure cracked. I don't have to sit here and listen to this, she said, starting to remove her earpiece. Oh no, you don't get to walk away now, Michael said firmly. You started this conversation, Joy. You questioned my integrity, my commitment, and my character on national television. The least you can do is sit and hear my response. This is completely unprofessional, she protested, but stayed seated. Unprofessional. Michael's voice cracked with disbelief. What's unprofessional is ambushing a guest with personal attacks. What's unprofessional is using your platform to spread divisive narratives, instead of having genuine conversations. What's unprofessional is the way you've conducted yourself today. The silence that followed was deafening. Michael sat back, chest rising and falling heavily. Joy stared at him, a mix of shock and indignation. The other hosts looked like they wanted to disappear entirely. Finally, Whoopi spoke. Well, I think we've certainly had a very passionate discussion today. Michael turned to the camera, locking eyes with the audience. I came here to talk about my work, the stories I want to tell, the positive impact entertainment can have. Instead, I've been forced to defend my character and my integrity. Creating change isn't a performance. It's not about how loudly you shout or how many headlines you generate. It's about the work you do when the cameras aren't rolling, the relationships you build, and the opportunities you create for others. Joy sat in stunned silence as Michael continued, addressing viewers directly. I will continue this work regardless of what anyone thinks about my methods or my approach. Results matter more than rhetoric, and impact matters more than image. As the show cut to commercial, the moment was already going viral. Social media exploded with clips of Michael's passionate defense, overwhelming support pouring in for his unapologetic stand. So, what do you think? Was Michael B. Jordan right to defend himself so forcefully, or should he have taken the high road and stayed silent? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this. How celebrities respond to attacks like this says everything about their character.